Welcome to Alien Legends Unveiled. Throughout history, ancient civilizations have left us clues, artifacts and carvings that depict scenes eerily similar to what we now associate with modern space travel. From flying objects to celestial beings, these images raise an intriguing question. Could these ancient cultures have possessed advanced knowledge of the cosmos or even space travel? The Palenque astronaut, a mysterious carving found in a Mayan temple, has sparked heated debate. It appears to show a figure seated in what looks like a spacecraft. Could this be evidence that ancient people knew more about the stars and perhaps space travel than we think? Let's dive deep into one of the greatest mysteries of our ancient past, the possibility that ancient civilizations had knowledge of space and maybe even technology that rivaled our own. Imagine a world where the people of ancient Egypt, Sumeria, or the Maya not only studied the stars, but also traveled among them. While this may sound like the plot of a sci-fi movie, some researchers believe that artifacts like the Palenque astronaut could provide evidence for these extraordinary claims. Could the ancient Maya have understood more about the cosmos than we realize? And if so, how did they come by this knowledge? Stick around as we explore the evidence, theories and mysteries surrounding one of the most enigmatic carvings ever discovered. It's easy to be skeptical when presented with the idea that ancient civilizations could have had any knowledge of space travel. After all, we think of space exploration as a modern achievement, something pioneered in the 20th century with the development of rockets and advanced technology. To suggest that civilizations like the Maya, Egyptians or Sumerians were capable of interstellar travel, or even had knowledge of it, seems at first glance implausible. So why do some people believe that ancient civilizations might have had advanced knowledge of the cosmos? The main problem is that many of these beliefs come from interpreting ancient artifacts through a modern lens. Take, for example, the sarcophagus lid of King Pakal, a ruler of the ancient city of Palenque. To some, this carving clearly shows a figure seated in what looks like a spacecraft, surrounded by controls, flames and exhaust fumes. But to others, it's nothing more than a symbolic representation of Pakal's journey to the afterlife. This skepticism is understandable. After all, if ancient civilizations had the capability for space travel, why haven't we found any physical evidence of spacecraft or advanced machinery? And how could they have achieved such a feat without leaving behind more obvious technological remnants? The challenge lies in reconciling these ancient depictions with the historical record. What if the truth is more complex than we imagine? What if, instead of actual space travel, these cultures had knowledge of the cosmos that we've yet to fully comprehend? Let's take a step back and look at the broader picture. The Maya were not the only civilization obsessed with the stars. In fact, ancient cultures around the world displayed a deep fascination with the cosmos, leaving behind stunning astronomical knowledge that still baffles modern researchers. For instance, the Sumerians, one of the earliest known civilizations, left behind detailed records of the planets in our solar system. Some interpretations of their texts describe beings known as the Anunnaki, who are said to have come from the stars. Were these just myths, or could they have been records of actual encounters? Meanwhile, the ancient Egyptians were master astronomers. The pyramids of Giza are aligned precisely with the stars in Orion's belt, and the construction of these massive structures reflects an understanding of geometry and celestial mechanics far ahead of its time. Some even suggest that the ancient Egyptians' knowledge of the stars and their use of advanced mathematics may point to some form of lost knowledge, or perhaps even influence from extraterrestrial beings. While these ideas are speculative, the precision with which they track the movements of the stars and planets continues to amaze scientists today. Now, let's return to the Maya. The Maya were expert astronomers, developing a calendar that was so accurate it could predict solar and lunar eclipses with incredible precision. They built their cities in alignment with the movements of the sun, moon and planets, particularly Venus, which played a significant role in their mythology and religious practices. It's clear that the Maya had a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, but does that mean they also had knowledge of space travel? This brings us back to the Palenque astronaut, one of the most intriguing pieces of evidence in the ancient astronaut theory. The image on King Pakal's sarcophagus lid is highly detailed, and some believe it shows him in a kind of spacecraft, his hands manipulating what look like controls, with flames or exhaust coming from the bottom of the scene. Skeptics argue that this is just an artistic representation of Pakal's journey to the afterlife, a common theme in Mayan art. But could it be more than that? Could this carving represent knowledge of something far beyond their time? Here's where things get really interesting. As we examine the Palenque astronaut more closely, it's hard to ignore the details that seem to resemble modern technology. Pakal appears to be reclining in a seated position, similar to how astronauts are positioned in spacecraft. His hands are reaching toward what could be interpreted as controls or instruments, and beneath him is a shape that looks strikingly like a rocket with flames or exhaust coming out of it. Critics of the ancient astronaut theory argue that this interpretation is just that, an interpretation based on our modern understanding of spacecraft. They suggest that the carving is purely symbolic, representing Pakal's journey to the underworld, a concept deeply embedded in Mayan mythology. But even if that's the case, why does it resemble a modern spacecraft so closely? Some researchers believe that the carving may not be literal evidence of space travel, but rather a symbolic representation of advanced knowledge. Perhaps the Maya had a deeper understanding of the cosmos, one that we've only begun to scratch the surface of. Or maybe, just maybe, they were influenced by something, or someone, that possessed this knowledge. Could it be that the Palenque astronaut is a clue to a much larger mystery about humanity's ancient past? There are also other pieces of evidence from around the world that fuel the ancient astronaut theory. In India, ancient Sanskrit texts known as the Vedas describe flying machines called Vimanas. These vehicles are said to have been capable of traversing great distances both on Earth and beyond. Could this be another example of ancient peoples possessing knowledge of advanced technology? Similarly, in South America, the Nazca lines, a series of massive geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, have puzzled researchers for decades. From the ground, these lines are barely discernible, but from above, they form intricate shapes, including animals and humanoid figures. Some theorists suggest that these lines were made to be seen from the sky, perhaps even as landing strips for ancient astronauts. The Palenque astronaut is just one piece of a global puzzle. Across the world we find carvings, texts and structures that hint at a knowledge of the cosmos far beyond what we once believed was possible. But how do we separate myth from reality? How do we distinguish between artistic representation and evidence of something more? The mystery of the Palenque astronaut remains unsolved, but it raises fascinating questions about our ancient past. Could the Maya and other ancient civilizations have had access to knowledge or technology that we've lost over time? Were they simply masterful observers of the stars? Or did they understand the cosmos in ways we have yet to fully appreciate? Whether the carving of King Pakal is a depiction of an ancient astronaut or a symbolic representation of his journey to the afterlife, it challenges us to keep questioning and exploring the mysteries of our past. What do you think? Could ancient civilizations have known more about space and travel than we give them credit for? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're fascinated by mysteries like this one, make sure to subscribe and check out our next video on ancient technologies that defy explanation. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our latest content.